Hi friends, it's Laura, Mostly Crafty here on YouTube and Instagram. Today is Sunday, August 2nd. It's Flosstube 15. It's been a month since I filmed my last Flosstube and also a month since I filmed my mid-year whip parade, although I posted that while I was on vacation. So it's only been about 2.5, 3 weeks since you've seen that. I was on vacation. I was in Italy and Austria. I've been back 2 weeks. It was very, very hot. That is what I will remember from this trip, is that it was so hot. I had a couple new subscribers from my mid-year whip parade, so thanks for joining. If you're new here, my name is Laura, live in Seattle, Washington, and I'm a cross stitcher. I don't generally do full coverage. I stitch a lot of JEDx patterns, a lot of smaller patterns, not a ton of samplers, not a ton of really tiny like linen count. Generally a 32-ish count stitcher. I have a dog, Ruby, who you're probably hearing in the background. And I read a lot and watch a lot of television as well. So if you're new, welcome. If you've been here a while, welcome back. I have a few things to go through. I'm going to grab my notebook because I was puttering around trying to find some paper to hold in front of my pattern, behind my patterns, and I'm not going to start this over for the 5th time. So today have one finish to show you, and then also want to talk a little bit about plans and needlework marketplace kind of in the end, and then I'll have a giveaway, so stay tuned. First up, I have one finish, and it is Closely Kept by the Shaded Stitchery. Hopefully you can see this. The sun just came out after I set up my light. And also it's, there you go. You can kind of see it that way. I went for a tone on tone. Originally I had stitched this in a watermelon floss from Pirate Robin, and it was really just blending in. So this is Closely Kept number 5 by Shaded Stitchery. It is stitched on watermelon linen, 32 count, I believe, by Tabby Cat Linen. I bought it at Acorns and Threads when I was down there in January. And this is Classic Colorworks Sunset, I think. Yeah, Classic Colorworks Sunset. I started this in like February with that watermelon color, and it was two-tonal. You could not see it at all in person. And I was having a really hard time stitching it. So I restarted it in June, mid-June. I only did about 353 stitches on this in June. And then this is what I worked on vacation, almost exclusively. That's giving you a better picture of the sunset and the watermelon. You can see it in person. It's very differentiated. It's stitched 2/2 on that watermelon linen. And I had big plans to stitch on vacation, and I did not stitch that much. I stitched on this a lot. It is only 1,502 stitches, and I did 1,149 roughly. Actually, I did 1,019 while I was on vacation, and I ran out of thread literally my last day. I had 130 stitches left, and I had counted somewhere kind of in the middle and estimated how much floss I would have left, and I was like, I got this, no problem. And I ran out, and so I basically just needed like one arm's length of the thread, the sunset thread, once I got home. So I finished that up. The Classic Colorworks threads are only 5 yards, so if it had been an 8-yard skein, I would have been totally fine. So I don't know quite how I'm going to finish this yet. I do have some state fair plans, which I'll try to talk about at the end. And so I might try to do like a pillow or something because there's an item category, and I haven't decided. I also thought this would be a really great cover for the journal class that Jandy taught at MidSummer Stitch, which I don't own the Modern Hoopla Journal form, but if I did, I could patchwork this onto, pardon me, some other fabric and just use this as the cover. So that's an option. Not quite sure what I'm going to do yet. All right, that was my only finish. In terms of starts, I have one start. Let me grab my needle minder off. Please hold. Because I was stitching on this morning. Okay, and this is my start from vacation. Don't mind the painter's tape. This is Little Liberty Sampler by Siren Stitchworks, I believe. And I saw this on Recovering Monogamous Stitchers, Karen's Flosstube, sometime in May or June. She had stitched this, and I thought, you know what, that's a pattern that I would love to stitch for the 250th anniversary of the United States. I wasn't feeling like patriotic stitching, but I saw that and was like, okay, I really like that. So I am, as you can see, making really great progress. I also stitched this a lot on vacation. This is Affogato by Fiber on a Whim, I think. I believe this is 36 count, so I'm stitching it 1/2 with the called for DMC. I will say that, and I'll put a picture up, the picture does not give a true representation of the piece. In the picture, you can kind of see that the middle of the Statue of Liberty looks the same as the linen. The called for linen, I think, is Flax by Zweigart. And so I kind of expected the middle to look like the Affogato, or I had like a golden color. But in reality, this is 501 and 928. So it does give that verdigris look, but it does not look at all like the picture. Also, the Liberty is 3768, I think. And it's a dark kind of like bluish gray. So is that on the in a Lazarus poem on the outside. It looks black. I assumed it would be like black or like a really, really, really dark gray in the picture, and it's not at all. So that's a surprising difference. Now I'm happy with it. I started this on the 4th of July in the British Airways lounge at Heathrow because I had a 6-hour layover from here to Munich to kick off my vacation. And I stitched a lot in the BA lounge. I didn't write down the exact number, but I stitched 2,958 stitches in July over the course of 3 weeks or so. I'm not counting the backstitch words because I'm not marking them off on my pattern. So I've stitched that the last couple days. I finished the words this morning. Try to get close. Can you see what's off? Yeah, there's a stair step there. I was on Stephanie Cross Stitch the Globe Stitchy Zoom, and I didn't realize that I was 1 stitch up on this word. Somewhere over here, because I was stitching it this way, I got off, not sure where. So I need to rip this words out and then move it down and figure that part out. That is a tomorrow Laura problem. And then there's a border around the edge, which is still like 1,000 stitches. This pattern in total is 4,200. I'm only at 69%, which I'm like basically done. I could stop here and be fine. And also, did I leave any margin? Absolutely not. I had an offcut of the fabric from a sampler for Grace, which you can kind of see I had pre-trimmed the fabric, which was stupid because then I decided not to stitch it on that fabric. And when I was doing some quick measuring before going on my trip, I was like, oh my God, I totally have enough fabric. This is perfect. I didn't add in a margin. I didn't add in a margin. Now I had plenty on the way down. So I've got plenty down at the bottom to still stitch something on if I wanted to. But I realized in the BA lounge, I did not leave enough margin on the sides. So that's my bad. Not sure how I'm going to finish this. I would like to get this finished for the state fair. We will see. And that's a TBD. Laura, you're like, what about Coneflower Chorus? You were going to stitch on that your entire vacation. I never even took it out of the bag. 0 stitches. I just got really into the monochromatic stitching for both of those on vacation and really enjoyed it. And that's just what I did. So I'll work on that eventually. So that's what I did for 2 weeks while I worked. That's the only 2 projects I worked on in Italy. Since I've been home, I've worked mostly on the Little Liberty sampler. I was basically done with the dark green and I've been filling in with that light green and then the border and whatnot. And then I did a little bit of Christmas in July stitching. Okay, sorry, the vacuum is going in the background. So if you can hear that, I'm really sorry. I've got like 10 minutes before my online therapy appointment. So I'm going to try to get as much done as I can, and then I'll come back and film the rest. So I did some Christmas in July stitching, not a lot. This is Holiday House by Satsuma Street. And I did a lot of this pink and some of this red. I really wanted to do this interior part, and I did not have that color. And I went to Michael's and I still don't have that color. So I did 321 Christmas in July stitches. I'm at 1177 out of 17,000 stitches, so I'm at 7%. This was a slog. I'm also stitching Haunted House, Halloween House, Monster House. I'm stitching Monster House by Satsuma Street. And I really love stitching that, and it goes really quickly. This is a slog. The pieces that I've been working the most on since being home is this Summer Quaker by Lila's Studio. I have 2 summer projects. Sorry if you can hear the background. I've got someone else here. I want to finish Blueberry J and I want to finish Summer Quaker. I started this in, I think, December, and I made a lot of progress on it. So I stitched 1,209 stitches in July on this. So I'm at almost 4,100 out of 28,000 stitches. So I'm at 14.5%. Since the last time we talked, I'm pretty sure I did all of this blue, some of this orange. I finished this blue medallion, and then I've been working on the ship here while watching Rachel Maxey on YouTube. So I did a lot of that the other day. So really enjoying stitching on this. It's going really quickly. This is a mystery cream linen that I thrifted. I think it's somewhere like 29 to 30 count. So it is going really quick, especially after stitching so much, like 32, 36 count. It's like a breeze to see and a breeze to stitch on. So I've been setting up my Lowry stand outside in the evenings, putting a YouTube on or, a podcast and stitching away kind of in the backyard. And it's been really enjoyable. Loving stitching on this. I still have quite a bit, so it's going to take me forever to finish it, but trying to stitch on that every day of the summer. I haven't been 100%, but it's going really well. Okay, I'm back. My therapist didn't show up. Totally fine. Don't care. Just don't want to get charged for that. So I'm not sure exactly where I left off because it's been like half an hour. So I'm just going to start again on this one and hopefully I don't repeat myself too much. What I've also worked on quite a bit this summer is Blueberry J. I would like to finish this by the end of technical summer, so September. I also got a wild hair that I would finish this by the time the state fair rolls around in 2 to 3 weeks. I would need 5,000 stitches to do that, so we'll see. But I got a wild hair, and so yesterday I stitched 357. I will say, I love this pattern. I love Jessica. I'm her #1 fan. Adore her. This fabric is so hard to stitch on after stitching on that lightweight Summer Quaker. Even though the Little Liberty sampler is a 36 and this is a 32, I had to get my magnifying glasses out to stitch on this yesterday. I had to stitch this blueberry 3 times. And then also stitch part of this leaf 3 times. It was so fiddly. It's driving me insane. I stitched this while listening to a new book called Salt by Mark Kurlansky yesterday, and then some Taskmaster throwbacks last night. It was so fiddly yesterday. I got like 127 stitches in here, and it took me hours because it was just like so fiddly. I still do love this, and I hope to finish it soon. It's on the call for Malachite by Fiber on a Whim. It's 32 count. I'm doing it in the called for DMC and the Threadworks. Did I say this? I'm at just under 6,900 stitches out of 11,659, so I'm at 59%. It's been slow going lately. It's taking me forever to stitch on this, but I will keep stitching on it because I really like it and I want to get it done. I'm also stitching on this for the Animal Weirdo Sal, which is hosted by Lisa at Linguistic Stitches. There's another pattern that I wanted to stitch for that. It's I think it's in a For Love of Cross Stitch magazine, a vintage one that I grabbed at Saturday Creative or whatever. It has like this Canada Goose chasing this guy. I cannot find it. I looked through all of my vintage magazines last night. I Googled it. I can't find it anywhere. So in the interim, I'm just going to keep stitching on this because I can't find the pattern that I wanted. I do not know where it is. All right. So for the last month, I've stitched on mostly those 4 patterns. I did stitch a little bit on this for the full moon stitch, another JEDxStitch pattern. This is Witch's Road by JEDxStitch. It's my full moon stitch. So I did this deep purple, I think it's 154, over the past couple of, what day was the full moon? Monday or Tuesday? Whatever day that was. I'm stitching this in the called for DMC for the most part. I made some changes in these greenish and yellows because the called for was not showing up. This is more of that vintage Ginny Thomas linen that I hand dyed myself, 28 count. So I changed those couple colors. I also, the more I look at this, the more, I do not like this navy and this orange here. And this goes like all the way down. I'm also out of this orange, so I gotta get more of that. And then down over here. And I just don't like it. I think it's too dark. And it looks nothing like Jessica's pattern, which is stitched in a mishmash of fancy flosses and DMCs. So I might rip that out and change it. On Witch's Road, I'm at 49%. I'm at 2,100 out of 4,300 stitches. Again, I stitch on this every full moon. If you're doing the math and you're like, Laura, we are 7 months into the year, you should be more than 50%. You are correct. I need to stitch 350 stitches each full moon to finish this by the end of the year. We are not on track. I had to also restitch one of these like twice because I did it wrong. And again, if I'm pulling those out. So this will be done probably like February or March of next year. That's totally fine. This is a free pattern on her Ko-Fi, although you can, it's more like pay what you wish. So if you like that, you should check it out. I have in total, I think 6 JEDxStitch patterns on the go. Obviously I've shown 2 of them in this Flosstube on its own. So let me make sure I'm looking through my notes. Yeah, I've only really worked on 6 patterns since my last Flosstube, which is lower than what I would normally work on. Although I did essentially start and finish one, and I started and I'm almost finished with another one. So, you know, it's pretty good progress. What did I not work on? You may have noticed I did not work on Local Conditions. It is, nope, that's not it. I don't know where it is. I'm just not, I'm a solid month behind. I did not pick it up at all in July. I might just finish out June and then use that as a bag cover. I'm just not motivated to stitch on it. I don't know. I know a lot of people get that way with temperature stitches. It's Local Conditions by Satsuma Street. It is a temperature stitch, and I did a lot kind of at the end of June. I may have worked on that after my last Flosstube, because I did something between my floss tube and leaving on July 3rd, and I'm not sure what I worked on. That's okay. I may have worked on that a little bit. And I always have a grand plan of like stitching 2 days at a time in the morning to get caught up, and I've not done that at all. So that's how it goes. Okay, I didn't work on that at all. Moving into plans, Animal Weirdo Sal, which is an August Sal by Liza at Linguistic Stitches, where you kind of stitch any weirdo animal that you want. She is stitching some from the Danish Handcraft Guild calendars that she has collected. Those are just children screaming as they ride by on a bike. Don't mind them. Anyway, I love those animal weirdos. I don't have nearly enough weird animals to stitch on. Blueberry J is not weird. If you were looking for a weird animal, you could do Laura's Frisian Sampler by Modern Folk Embroidery, because these little deer guys are super weird. What are they doing? And then this, I made this into like a duck. I don't know what it really is. There's some other weird birds in here. There's a lot of weird animals in this. This was my January Blessing Sampler, again by Jacob at Modern Folk Embroidery. It's not always available. He uses it as a fundraiser sometimes. I stitched this on Witchelt 35 count antique lamb's wool, I think. It's also why I stitched Victorian Haunt on by Witchy Stitcher in a custom floss conversion, all DMC. And then I thrifted this frame and I masking taped it in. Nailed it. But that has some weird animals. If you're interested in some really weird animals, I would recommend that. I'm also thinking about what to stitch from Needlework Marketplace. If you're not familiar, Needlework Marketplace is an online wholesale market for cross-stitch patterns. It's similar to Nashville Needlework Market that happens in Nashville in March. This happens in late August, and so if you shop through Abby Topknot or Lindy Stitches, you can get patterns, pre-order patterns through them as well. So I'm keeping an eye on the patterns that are coming out. Not that I need more patterns because I have a bajillion of them. But I really like this one by Boomerang Stitches. It's called Tanner's Trinkets. I'll put a little picture. It's a crow. I like crows. And if you've checked in with Laura's Corvid Research Center before, you'll know that there are a million crows in Seattle. And there's a whole research center at UW-Bothell that researches crows and how they interact and does a ton of different studies. So I've been trying to train the crows in my neighborhood, varying levels of success. They do follow me on my walks because I give them little treats, but they have yet to start bringing me trinkets, which is disappointing because that's the ultimate goal, is to either train an army of crows to keep the raccoons out of my yard or to get trinkets. My dog is not thrilled with this plan either way, by the way. I had one crow, I named him Carl, coming to the backyard pretty frequently, and then Ruby would just chase him off. So Laura's Corvid Research Center is still in development to get the crows to do her bidding. So we're working on that. But I love this by Boomerang Stitches. I also loved this by Quaternion Creations. I know I never say that name right. It's called Cauldron and Key. I love this like Quaker style spooky, again, monochromatic, which I'm really into. Really loving this. My other thoughts on Needlework Marketplace is that there's so many moth patterns. I counted at least 5 so far, most from Sprouting Lupin, but there were a lot of moth patterns. And as my friend Leslie said, that's too many moths. And I would agree. I have one moth pattern in my stash. It is Winter Moth by the Blue Flower that I picked up last year. And I would stitch that because I think it's really pretty on that green fabric. But in general, I'm not a moth girl. I don't like the Luna moths. I don't really like bugs. So not for me. The other patterns I will not be stitching are the JEDxStitch patterns. Now, I might eventually do the Moon Sampler because I think that's really great. And I love all of the little motifs, but it's real big. It's like 20,000 stitches. And I do not have another 20,000 stitch pattern in me. I already have, I like cross stitch, which is like 20,000 stitches, and Summer Quaker, just 28,000 stitches. I got to finish something in the 10,000 stitch range before I can even think about picking up another JEDxStitch pattern. I'm also not going to be stitching Trash Panda by the Artsy Housewife now. I will not be stitching raccoon patterns because I have a text thread with my landlord, WARRR, War Against Rabbits, Rats, and Raccoons. And it is a nature preserve, basically in our backyards. A couple days ago, there was, I was sitting on the bed and I could see some movement kind of along the back fence. And I look out and there is a mama and two kits drinking from our rain barrel. And it was 2:30 in the afternoon. Excuse me, raccoon and babies. Why don't you get out of my yard? No, that's too early in the day. And then a year ago, this time last year, Ruby got in a fight late at night with a raccoon who was probably protecting her kits. And we ended up in the pet yard. And that was the second time that happened. So I am not a raccoon girly. I will not be encouraging trash pandas to, in any way, shape, or form, nor glorifying them. The second reason I'm not interested in stitching any trash panda raccoon patterns is Jimothy, who you probably all heard about. I will not post pictures because Jimothy lives in my neighborhood. I don't know exactly where. It's sort of a big neighborhood, you know, it kind of encompasses several sub neighborhoods. So I'm not exactly sure which one he lives in, but he's in my neighborhood and I'm low key worried about him because I saw a post in one of the neighborhood groups about people slowing down on the street to try to catch a glimpse of him. And I think people are weird and they might want to try to catch him or something. So I'm worried for his safety as well. And also, again, I don't fuck with raccoons. So we do not want more of them in my neighborhood. I'm actually actively trying to scare them away to keep my dog safe. So again, I hope the crows join my side and I can help build a crow army and they will help protect me and my dog from raccoons. Because I have fought one off with a garden implement and I do not want to repeat that. So, won't be doing the JEDxStitch pattern. One of them I don't like. I know it was a hot take. I'm sorry, Jessica. I'm your #1 fan. It's not for me. And then the moon one, again, just too giant. Can't deal with that right now. I am also thinking about what to stitch for the state fair projects. So there are 2 state fairs in Washington. I mean, for reasons. One of them has categories for cross stitch and black work, and this year Americana. They also have different levels, so beginner, intermediate, advanced, like expert. So I feel like I have a really good chance to enter a lot of pieces into that. You can enter up to 15 total, I think, across all of the different categories. I have not stitched any black work in the past year, so I can't put anything in for that category, but I could put in a lot of other pieces. And then the Puyallup Fair has categories for counted thread and linen, but you can only put one into each category. And then they do a size of combined length and width, 24 inches, 24 to 36, etc., all the way up. The challenge with that is that almost all of my pieces would fit into the under 24 inches category. So I could only enter like 1 cross stitch and 1 linen. And I do mostly linen, right? So I think I might want to frame Winter's Folly for that because I think I did a really good job on my stitches. And it has beads and looks really good. That Laura's Frisian sampler, if I did the math correctly, that is larger than 24 inches. So I could enter that in the next category up. And then everything else is small. So I can really only enter one thing into that So I also have to frame and get a wire hanger on the back of most of them because I just do like a little hook on the back. So I've got a lot to think about in the next week or two. Those are due August 14th or August 21st. So I have like 3 weeks if I want to try to finish one of my larger pieces like Blueberry J to try to enter it into a larger category as well. So I made a list. I got to go through and figure out what goes in what category. Because that Peel Up Fair, I think I mentioned this, maybe not. You can only put one in each category. So I'd have one cross stitch because none of my cross stitches are large. And then one linen and maybe one slightly larger linen if I can solve that. So I need to figure that out. That also makes me think other plans of I need to start something larger to fit into a larger category. I say that Summer Quaker would fit into a larger category. So would I like cross stitch because that is also giant. So we'll see. I would like to do a birthday start. I'm considering Mary Morgan's by Fox and Rabbit because I love that. My friend Ro did that. She finished it a few months ago and it is stunning and it's DMC. So easy. I'm thinking about that. It is giant, so I need to evaluate like how many big stitches I would want. But it's so pretty. And then I'm also thinking about doing, again, like I said, a crow wall. I want to do a stitch along day, either for my birthday, which is August 31st, or like in September or October that is crow themed and everyone stitch on something crow related because there are a lot of great like blackbird crow patterns. So again, Tanner's Trinkets would fit into that. I have another one by, I don't know who it's by. It's called Haunted Harvest, I think. It's 2 mockingbirds, which are, no, 2 magpies. It's 2 magpies, duh. Also a corvid. You know what's also a corvid? Shit, I just dropped my. You know what's also a corvid? A Stellar's Jay. Blue jays are also corvids. So yeah, blue jays, magpies, crows, ravens. So I want to do some sort of like murder of crows stitch along. So yeah, we'll see about that. If you'd be interested, let me know down below if you would want to participate. And if you have a favorite crow corvid pattern, I think that'd be really fun. Other life stuff, I'm going to PNWSS at the beginning of September. I don't know anyone else going. So if you know someone going, would you DM me on Instagram, mostly crafty, or connect us because I don't have anyone to sit at a table with. I also need to figure out table gifts. I don't know what I see what people take to StitchCon. I don't know what the PNWSS vibe is. I'm going because it's close to me. I can drive. And I have a lot of friends in Portland that I could hang out with while I'm down there too. But yeah, I got to figure out table gifts. I also need to think of something to start at PNWSS or something to work on. So I got to figure that out. Got a lot to do in the next month, stitching wise. Also, since I finished Closely Kept, I wanted to do a giveaway. So let's do the giveaway now. I'm just going to pass the stash. I won this from Stephanie at Cross Stitch the Globe. She got it from Nuri as a giveaway. And so I'm going to pass the stash. It comes with both patterns. I stitched this one. Then it also comes with the relief where you stitch the background and leave the pattern empty. So Nuri's patterns are like super nice. They're this thick double cardstock. Super nice. I will ship this anywhere in the world. If you're international, I might have to fold it in half. If that bothers you, don't enter the word close or closely. Don't use winner, giveaway, anything like that. But I'll pass the stash. And I'll ship anywhere in the world because it's paper. And I can do a document. So yeah, there's that. Okay, if you're here for stitchy stuff, mostly done with stitchy stuff, life stuff. I just got back from vacation. I was in Austria and Italy. It was very warm. I had hoped to go to some like cross stitch stores or something like that. 0%. I found one in Florence, and I think we walked by it like our third to last day, but it was just too hot. We were supposed to go into town and do some stuff, and it was too hot, so I did not get to go back. While we were in Innsbruck, we did some hiking, and I really wanted to go to the Folk Museum, and I thought it was Folk Arts Museum, and it was not. It was more about like local history, kind of like folk museum. There was very little art. It was almost entirely, this is so funny, it was almost entirely stubes. So a stube is essentially a parlor or living room of a, Innsbruck is in Tyrol, and so Tyrolean is the kind of like region of Austria, and they have like 9 or 10 rebuilt parlors from like old cabins, a stube. They all have like a big stove in the corner. They all have like deep dark wood paneling, very dark. They had like 9 of those, and we just kept walking into them over and over again. They did have some costumes. I got like 2 pictures. It was really dark. They were hard to see. Not nearly enough interpretation of like how the like embroidery worked or anything. I was really excited. I thought there'd be a lot more textile stuff, because when I Googled like textile museums or like folk art museums ahead of time in Austria, it had a list, and that was one of them. So I was like, okay, cool. There's probably like a lot of textiles and like old embroidery I can take a look at. And there was not. So it was kind of a dud. I didn't get to go thrifting at all either. I haven't gone thrifting since mid-June. I'm also totally out of space, so that's not a problem. And then, yeah, in Italy, I wanted to try to go to the costume museum. Did not have time. Or the Costume Institute, whatever it's called. It has a lot of like cool outfits and that sort of thing. Too hot, did not have time. Mostly drank spritzes and walked around in 100-degree weather. So I would not recommend going to Italy in July. It is not a good time of year. So I think that's about it. I covered, see, my finish, my new start, plans, needlework marketplace, and the giveaway. Closely. I can search for both if you're interested. And again, I'll ship anywhere in the world for this. And with that, I will probably be back in 2 weeks. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you guys soon.